Well, it's been a hellish week in the US with a spate of sometimes deadly accidental shootings across the country. Our press reviewer, Deepti Laurent, is looking at this topic in our press review today. Take us through it, Deepti.
Well, Sharon, wrong address shootings is a phrase that has sort of been coined to describe the spate of accidental shootings and sometimes even causing death. It's the focus of this New York Times article today after what, as you said, has been a particularly hellish week. It began with the Kansas City shooting of a 16-year-old who had the misfortune of knocking on the wrong door. Then in New York, a young woman was shot after she and her friends drove up the wrong driveway. Two cheerleaders got themselves into some trouble in a parking lot, with one of them being shot after getting into the wrong car. Each of these are really unique events, but the Times explains that these shootings are a worrying convergence of common threads, increasing fear of crime coupled with increasing gun ownership in the U.S., fear-mongering in the media, and, quote, marketing campaigns by the gun lobby that portray the suburban front door as a fortified barrier against a violent world. It's also the focus of a Washington Post article here, which proclaims that our new terror is the law-abiding gun owner who is ready to kill. The Post also picking up on that idea of fear really being at the center of these seemingly ludicrous actions, that at the core of the gun lobby's marketing efforts is this fear and really this effort to convince potential buyers that sooner or later they will be victims of violent crime. The only question is whether they'll be able to kill their would-be attackers before they themselves are killed. So by sort of promoting this fear-mongering idea, we're seeing this proliferation of these kind of accidental gun incidents across the U.S. Sharon.
Sticking with the Washington Post, it's also released a new volume of leaks from Discord focusing on the war in Ukraine.
Well, according to these leaked documents published in the Washington Post today, Ukraine planned attacks on Russian forces in Syria. This was something that the Ukrainian military intelligence was developing, a plan that was eventually halted by the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Russian troops have been in Syria, of course, since Russian President Vladimir Putin backed the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in 2015. The leaked documents also detail how such a campaign could proceed if Ukraine revives it. This could include, for instance, targeted airstrikes using unmanned vehicles on Russian positions, or targeting the Russian paramilitary group, the Wagner Group's positions in Syria. The idea being to deplete Russia's resources in Syria, so Vladimir Putin will be forced to redirect resources away from the battlefront in Ukraine.
Now, in Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has offered the post of Consul-general in New York to a far-right, self-proclaimed racist politician. How is that being covered, Deepti?
There's a lot of focus on that in the Israeli press today. This is from the Times of Israel, Sharon. This person, May Golan, she's a far-right MP of Netanyahu's Likud party. She has this rag to riches backstory, something that was covered in another Israeli paper by Haaretz. Raised by a single mother in a crime and drug-addled neighborhood of Tel Aviv, she got her chance to attend a prestigious high school and essentially never looked back, and that sort of began her rise to politics. But her background has not really enlightened her politics. Golan has been known for her raucous behavior in parliament and outrageously racist comments. She referred to asylum seekers from Sudan and Eritrea as, quote, rapists and thieves. She said she wouldn't eat in a restaurant that employed African workers. Yet she's now been nominated, pending her acceptance, of course, to Consul-general in New York. The Israeli press explaining that it could also be a political strategy. Sending Golan far away could ease some of the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's domestic worries too. But her nomination will not appease anxiety among Jewish and non-Jewish New Yorkers who are increasingly alarmed by the current state of affairs in Israel, even if, as the Times of Israel says here, she says she'll work with all Jewish organizations.
It's a serious blow to online media outlets. Buzzfeed News is shutting down, Deepti.
Yeah, pioneering website, media website, as the Washington Post calls it. Buzzfeed News even won a Pulitzer-prize in its 12-year history. It's now announced that it will be shutting down. The co-founder, Jonah Peretti, telling staff it was due to a range of things, the tech recession, but also declining advertising and other challenges. The website really became a point of cultural reference in the decade that followed, the past decade between 2010 and 2020. But ultimately, this writer at Slate here in this article explains that it really was the sort of model of BuzzFeed that contributed to its downfall, notably the fact that it really relied heavily on social media traffic. But as Facebook, for instance, moved away from news, while readership also declined at BuzzFeed. Unlike more traditional media outlets, which rely on loyal customers who are prepared to pay for content, this was not so much the case for BuzzFeed. Their work, however, did make the media industry better, the Slate writer says, which is why the closing of BuzzFeed News is such a blow, not just to journalism, but democracy itself.
Finally, in happier news, Deepti, Australia's Macquarie Dictionary is asking the public to put forward 5 innovative words used by Australians with some very interesting results.
Well, Macquarie Dictionary credits Australians with their sort of innovative, inventive lingo. Aussies love to shorten everything, every word, and then shorten it again. Macquarie Dictionary has asked Aussies to put forward some terms. They've come up with 5 terms that could make a debut as sort of an innovative Australian term. You have among the 5 top terms, you have this one here, Sharon, gendi nooch, which is short form in Australia for gender neutral, gaining traction right now, apparently. There's also this word here, tiger toast, which is toasted bread with Vegemite and sliced cheese on it. And you also have this one here, Cosy lives, which is short form for the cost of living, a term that we're hearing a lot of right now. The 2 other terms included murder noodle, which is what we call a venomous snake, and password child. It's a term we designate to when you have a favorite child, because that child's name is inevitably your password for online applications and so forth. Sharon.
Very creative, Deepti. That is Deepti Laurent with our press review. Well, do stay with us. Coming up, our focus report takes us to Pakistan and a special report on the plight of Afghan refugee families who have fled their homeland in order to provide schooling for their daughters who were banned from secondary and higher level education by the Taliban.